Hi, Dr. John Gray. Thank you so much for your time. You exactly came by 5:30.
I'm here at the right time?
Yes, of course you are.
Okay, great, great.
Just
Hello.
about 10 minutes back, Raymond Aron left the room. Of course, he was there for the last 1.5 hours.
Raymond? Oh,
Yes, Raymond
yeah,
Aron. Yes.
yes, he's a really, really fun guy.
Yeah, he had a good time. Yes. And thank you for your time. And of course, it's the first time I'm talking to you. Actually, I got to know about you and your name and your book, everything through Raymond Aron. And of course,
Yeah,
suddenly, right away, I downloaded the book and read many times Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. I was amazed. And at the same time, I can relate that with my business because I'm a real estate investor and professionally, I'm an accountant. But for the last 10 years, one of them is a dating business called Friends Matrimony. It's an online dating business. It is connecting Indian communities so that parents can look for the partners for their children. So many time I've seen a lot of divorce profiles are coming and children are coming and talking to us. So I notice why people are simply getting divorced. And at the same time, why can't they go together and they can fix the marriage and go as one single marriage? But at the same time, I couldn't find answers. But after I read the book, of course, some attraction, the polarity is of course a very important thing, but many people don't think about it. Male and female try to do the same transaction, things like that, and after that, the both feel the man or both feel the female, so there is no attraction. So we had to think about that hormone level and things like that. Of course, your book is so amazing. And without any further ado, and I'm going to just give some introduction for a person who doesn't need any introduction, that is Dr. John Gray. He has written almost about 21 books, and he started the first book in 1990 somewhere. And of course, after that, so many books. The last book, I think, very famous one he's fond of talking about is Beyond Mars and Venus. So, Dr. John Gray, so you can start your presentation. It's about 90 minutes, and of course, definitely, we all like to strengthen our relationship so that we can strengthen our business. That's our ultimate expectation from here. And it is your time. Please carry on. And if I am to ask few questions, I already jot down. But at the same time, you can start your presentation. Then I can sneak those questions into that.
that sounds great.
Thank
Well,
you.
since you introduced, welcome everybody. I'm looking forward to sharing with you today. It's I think the key I'll start with is talking about my most recent book, which is Beyond Mars and Venus. It's new relationship skills for our complex world. And one of the aspects of our complexity is we know we're under a lot of stress. When things are new and different, it's like, how do we manage it? And relationships are also under a great deal of stress. And Leo, I want you to know I have no problem with, or I invite you to ask any questions as I go along. If you find something's of value or useful, you can put it in your own words and ask me more. I just want you to know I'm happy to do more of a dialogue, but I can also keep talking. But you can interrupt me. I can see you, so you can just put your hand up and I'll stop.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I think that the whole gist of communication is back and forth, but I can talk the whole time easily. So when we have the new world, what has dramatically changed today, particularly in the man-woman relationship, is that women are more financially independent. Women are more educated. Women are more motivated to be independent. And so the world has gone through a dramatic shift that to a great extent has never happened before. Because as women become more independent, more financially secure, are capable, even being capable of being financially secure, it changes their hormones. And as you alluded to in the beginning, not only are we going to talk about communication skills, is understanding that when we're under stress, our hormones are out of balance. They're not the hormones that will allow us to feel loving, empathy, compassion. And to learn a little bit about that, doesn't have to be too complicated. It's pretty simple to understand the real biological difference between men and women, which I've done a lot of research on. And that's what's in this book, Beyond Mars and Venus. And it gives us a perspective of how men and women are different. when women start doing more traditional male things, when you feel I can take care of my financial survival, particularly, I can protect myself, then their ability to feel I need a man. What do I need a man for? Why do I need a man? Do I need another child to take care of? What is she going to experience? When she's independent, her body makes what we call male hormones, particularly testosterone. See, when I feel the pressure to make money, I make testosterone. When a woman feels the pressure to make money, she makes testosterone. Now, what happens when testosterone goes up in our body as men is if we feel confident that we can be successful, our testosterone goes up. If we don't have confidence that we can achieve our goals, our testosterone goes down. So that's a basic thing. And when a man experiences stress levels, when he's experiencing fight or flight, for example, wanting to fight, wanting to argue, or feeling passive, wanting to run away, wanting to procrastinate, all the things that keep us from being loving husbands as well as successful entrepreneurs, is our stress levels go up. This is a biological reality that when your stress level goes up, if you're a man, it's associated with low testosterone, and often low testosterone and high estrogen. Now, estrogen is a hormone that we have and women have, but for a woman to experience happiness and well-being, and stress-free, her estrogen levels need to be at least 10 times higher than a man's. For a man to experience well-being and happiness, his testosterone levels need to be at least 10 to 30 times higher than a woman's. So if a man has low testosterone, here's some of the symptoms. He becomes grumpy. He becomes irritable. He procrastinates. He feels resentments. He complains a lot. He doesn't feel happy. He doesn't feel motivated. He doesn't feel a sense of wanting to help others. He tends to be more, what we say in psychology, narcissistic. He just thinks about himself. He can't feel empathy or compassion for others. So all of that, those symptoms are associated with low testosterone in men. Now, here's another symptom that most people would never even imagine to be a symptom of low testosterone in men. And that is when a man has low testosterone and high estrogen. Estrogen is the female hormone. And when a woman has high estrogen, she feels love. She feels happy. She feels responsive. She can feel attracted to a man. She can only feel attracted to a man if her estrogen levels are 10 times higher. And as they become 20 times higher, she can fall in love. And also, even in business, you want your clients to be in love with you. You want to have raving fans. You want people to think you're fantastic. So everything I'm saying about relationships today, actually, in a certain way, will apply to your business success. It's understanding how, as a man, I can help raise a woman's estrogen levels, how a woman can raise a man's testosterone levels. This is how you create cooperation, because if you can do that, you can lower a person's stress level so they feel safe. They can trust you. They can open up to you. They can believe you. They can go along with you, as opposed to no, resistance. So that whole anxiety, lack of trust, lack of caring, lack of motivation, all these things occur due to different mindsets. Okay, for sure. It's all mindset, what we're thinking, how we're thinking about ourselves, how we're thinking about others, what our intention is. These are all really important things. But what I've done here, just so we can understand a very important dynamic, not the only dynamic in success or with love, but a very important dynamic, is how men and women experience life differently, how we have different buttons to push if we're to produce the right hormone balance, which goes along with all of the positive mindsets, goes along with your ability to empathize, feeling compassion, feeling motivation, feeling well-being, feeling trust, all those things that we want to feel and we want other people to feel when we're working with them, when we're leading them, when we're certainly married to them, and in our children. These are like universal biological standards. This is not just one woman here and one man there. It's every man his stress level will always be linked to his testosterone level. And every woman, her stress level will be linked to estrogen. That's just plumbing. Now, here's the thing, is that high estrogen, for example, will allow a woman to feel more love, more in touch with her responsiveness. When she gets what she needs, she's very happy. It doesn't take a lot to make her happy. If she has low estrogen, you can give her 100 roses or 1 rose, and she'll have no effect. If she has 10 times the estrogen of a man, which is a normal level for a woman, you can give her 100 roses and she'll go, oh, how wonderful. Or give her 1 rose and she'll go, oh, how wonderful. That's the secret why people fall in love, is in the beginning of a relationship. Men don't say, hey, I'm going to marry you. I'm going to share my income with you. I'm going to be faithful to just you and nobody else. I'm picking you out. You're the one for me. Men don't do that right away. They get to know a woman. They test her out, so to speak. You know, you go for a test run for several dates. And during that dating process, generally a man doesn't do the big things. He does a lot of little things like compliments, getting to know her, asking her questions, eventually maybe holding hands, being affectionate, planning a date, you know, inexpensive stuff, but it's little things. A lot of little things actually raises a woman's estrogen levels from 10 times more to 20 times more. And then she falls in love with you. Then you're married. And then he says, okay, I've done the little stuff. Why do I have to do the little stuff anymore? I'm going to do the big stuff. But the big stuff is just 1 estrogen spike. That's it. It's like if you think about in scoring sports, give her 50 rows, you get 1 point. Give her 1 rose, you give 1 point. And this is if men don't understand this, they're so frustrated with women, because you think, gee, you know, in the beginning, I did little things and it made you so happy. Wait till I do the big stuff. Wait till I commit to marriage and share my income with you and do wonderful things just for you and not for anybody else. You should feel very special. What he doesn't realize is if he goes to work, that's only 1 point. If he makes a lot of money, that's only 1 point. If he just carries a box for her, that's 1 point. If he wakes up and says, where's my wife? I want to give her a hug. That's 1 point. If when you leave the house, you say, oh, honey, I just want you to know I'm going to work. That's a point. You just told her, you interacted with her. You know, a funny thing about women, they have like GPS in their brain. They always want to know where you are. It's not because they don't trust you. It's because they feel safe when they know where you are. Even literally, we'll be watching TV in the den, TV room, and I'll get up to use the restroom. I'll basically say to her, I'm just going to go use the restroom, just so she knows. And she goes, oh, I know where he's gone. It comforts women to know where you are. It also comforts women to know that you notice when they leave. So if she goes somewhere, I say, oh, honey, where are you going? She feels like, oh, he cares. He wants to know where I am. Even though I really don't care where she is, if I show I care, you know, this is something that will make her happy. Until I learned this, you know, one of the key behaviors that will stimulate estrogen and well-being in women is another hormone, which is now quite commonly known. I brought it out to the public in terms of relationships over 20 years ago. Now there's all these books written on it, and that's called oxytocin. So we know that oxytocin is the trust hormone. When you feel safe, oxytocin gets produced. And what that does for women when oxytocin is produced, and the most powerful stimulator of stress goes down. And the most powerful stimulator of oxytocin are these things I'm talking about, which is, for example, the hugs is non-sexual touch, non-sexual affection, non-sexual interaction, non-sexual communication actually stimulates oxytocin. Oxytocin then raises the estrogen, and now her stress levels go down. Then once you raised it up to 10 times more than a man, you have a happy woman. Then sexual touch has an effect. But if you suddenly go into sexual touch, it actually lowers a woman's estrogen, lowers her oxytocin. And men don't realize that, because he goes, why isn't she interested in intimacy like I am? Because anytime you touch a man, he's open to sex. Okay, we don't need estrogen in order to be interested in sex. We have testosterone. Now, when our testosterone goes low, we lose interest. And here's the rub. We actually lose interest in the people we love, like our wife, as opposed to a stranger. If it's a stranger or pornography, then our testosterone will temporarily go up and then go down lower. If it's our wife and we love her, love is estrogen, and estrogen pushes testosterone down. So the more you love your wife, if she doesn't give you messages that you're her hero, you see, what produces testosterone in a man is that you feel like she feels so lucky you're here. Oh, you're here. Oh, I'm so glad you're here. Oh, would you do this for me? Would you help me with this? When she gives you messages again and again and again that you make a difference in her life, it's like on a hormonal level, it's like you have a business and every day you get to see you made a lot of money. You know, it's like you have a store, you count up how much money did I make today? You go, yeah, I feel good. Well, that's a little message of success. A little message of success stimulates testosterone. If your wife isn't giving you a message of success that you're a success every day, your testosterone levels will go low. But there's an unusual phenomena is for men when their testosterone is low. If there's a appearance of a woman wanting to have sex with you, that would be pornography online, which now we see has become so huge. All it takes for the subconscious mind to become sexually aroused, and it is the subconscious that gets aroused. You can't control sex feelings. They're automatic. If you expose yourself to pornography, to the man's mind, it says, oh, she wants me. There's nothing more potent to keep your testosterone up than a woman who wants you. Now, see, these are all the designs of modern relationships. I call it soulmate relationships. In previous generations, more traditional world, sex was not that important. It was like everybody knew that after 6 months, the sex was gone. It was basically women would do it out of obligation for men. It was just sort of a biological release for men, and women were not into it because men didn't have the romantic skills to bring women up to these higher estrogen levels, and women didn't feel the need for higher estrogen levels. This is what's interesting today, is that when women are way on their male side, that's their testosterone side, they now need more estrogen to find balance. So actually, women today want to enjoy more physical intimacy than ever before. They want that. But it's a paradox. They want it, they know it feels good, but then they don't want it because their estrogen levels are too low. And they go, what's the matter? What's the problem here? And then they become dissatisfied with their husbands because they're not giving it the higher level of estrogen, which creates this romantic feeling and also desire in her. And what man doesn't want your wife desiring you? Of course we do. And if we don't have the right skills and she doesn't have the right skills, then she doesn't feel that motivation. But then a man goes online and you can see it, the women are, of course, all faking it. They pretend like they want you, but the subconscious mind doesn't know that. As soon as you see more skin, your brain just goes, hey, I'm like Superman now. I'm desired by a woman. She wants to have physical intimacy with me. So what happens is his testosterone shoots up very short time. If you go on the statistics of internet porn, the average amount of time a man spends is 8 minutes total. So for 8 minutes, there's a spike and then it's gone. And now we know biologically, it cuts his testosterone level by 50%. We've done the studies in Japan. So you just get used to feeling low testosterone, and that's your normal level if you're having online sex with a little bit of a cocaine hit. When you have a release, and it's addictive. It produces the same brain chemicals as cocaine. And what happens over time with cocaine, for example, is it gives you such a hit of pleasure that then that's dopamine. The dopamine receptors that allow you to experience the benefit of dopamine begin to shrink. They begin to disappear. So that now, in order to get that hit, you need that strong hit. And whenever it's impersonal sex for men, it will always be a bigger hit than personal sex. Personal sex is not just dopamine and testosterone. If a man knows a woman, cares about a woman, then it's going to be dopamine, serotonin, estrogen, oxytocin, a whole brew of hormones that keeps him from experiencing that big hit. So his brain, just like if you're taking cocaine, if you've taken it a few times even, then your brain changes. So now normal life doesn't bring you fulfillment. You're dependent upon that higher hit. And this is also with gamblers. This is also with the stock market. You know, people get addicted to the stock market. You get that big high hit, but it's that perfect mirror. It will bring you back low again. And people get addicted to their momentary minutes of success rather than, which is using money to make money, which is nothing wrong with that, okay? It just don't get addicted to it, because the fulfillment, this lasting fulfillment, comes from helping people. So if what you want is an occupation where you're able to experience that daily, I'm actually helping people, because that's our soul's mission. That's our soul's purpose. That's the source of fulfillment. I can't tell you how many unhappy people they are who have lots of money. Just today, I was reading Stephen Jobs' last words before he died of cancer. And Stephen said, you know, with all my success, he had $7 billion. He said, I was never happy except the times when I was inventing. And that's when he was in his creative space. He was a creative genius, without a doubt. But at any other time, he was never happy, and his relationships were horrible. And he said that I was unhappy all the time. So there's a danger to getting too fixated on making money, although I love making money. I told you, I see the money, you know, I have an online store, and every day I see all the people that I'm helping. I don't just teach relationships, I also teach the biology of good relationships. And I know that if you have diabetes, for example, you have blood sugar issues, then basically that's going to interfere with your sex life. You can't have intimacy that way. So what can you do naturally to balance your blood sugar? You don't have to take drugs for that. There's Banaba is an Ayurvedic herb. Berberine is a Western herb. These are like herbs that will balance your blood sugar better than any drug. You see, what people don't know is all the drugs are things you can patent. They took those ideas from natural remedies from the Ayurveda or the Eastern Chinese 5,000-year-old herbal system. So they take these herbs and they isolate certain parts of them that they change it. Now they can patent it, and now you get some benefit, but you always get a side effect, because nature provides many, many cofactors in an herb. So many things are in there, as opposed to a drug is just one thing to produce a benefit. So you need to have balanced blood sugar. Otherwise, you're addicted to junk food. That will cause you to have low libido, hormonal imbalance. So, I mean, I got off saying that, you know, when I see people taking my health suggestions, I make money, but also I know I've helped them, and they let me know it helps them. That's the whole key, is that we need to be of service in our actions. And if we're not in service of our wives, they will serve us more. That's interesting, isn't it? What you'll find, and this is the problem, if you ignore your wife, she tends to give you more, and over time, she hates you. Okay, I've been doing this 40 years, so I know what I'm talking about. And when women come to me and they're unhappy and they want a divorce, they say the same thing every time. And men never say it. This is such a concrete difference. What women will say is, I give and I give and I give. I do all these loving things for him, and I don't get it back. I feel neglected. I feel ignored. I feel unsupported. I don't feel safe. He becomes angry. He's not appreciative. He doesn't respect me. They always have all these complaints, and they always talk about themselves as being so loving. And what I teach them, by the way, is no, they're not loving. If you resent a man, you do anything for him, it's not loving. You know, they say, oh, I tried this, I tried this. Well, when they're trying this and trying this, they're trying to change him. And when you try to change someone, you're giving them the message they're not good enough. And if you give a man the message he's not good enough, guess what happens? Every time he sees you, his testosterone goes down. Every time you complain to him, his testosterone goes down. His libido goes down. His interest in you goes down. He may love you. Matter of fact, he can love you a lot. A lot of men love their wives and they have no sexual interest in their wives at all. And they have no energy in the relationship. Why? Because that woman kept giving and giving and giving. If you give a lot of support to a man, he gets the message, job is accomplished, job well done. And so he basically does less. If I go to my job and everybody says, good job for sitting there and doing nothing, then I continue doing nothing. So what you do with a man is if you complain to him, he'll do nothing. If you give him too much love, he'll do nothing. What you have to do is truly love him and understand men's true needs. You see, if you cook a meal for me, and that's nice to do because you want to do it and I like it, that's nice. I've been working all day. If that's the case, you cooked a meal for me. Hopefully you enjoyed cooking and having the opportunity to be creative in your cooking. And not that it's a chore, not that it's an obligation, not that it's something you do for me. I don't want that. I want a happy wife. Every man today wants a happy wife. Every woman wants an energetic, somewhat romantic husband who's capable of having a good conversation. And by the way, here's an example of a good conversation, Leo. I heard this story the other day because, my books tell men you should practice listening and asking questions to women. Show interest. That's every time she pauses and you nod your head, make a little noise. Really? Tell me more. You get a point. You get 1 point for going to work. You can get 20 points for a 20-minute conversation. This is like starting to make sense to men. So this one man, he took his wife on a date and they're having dinner and he's listening to her and asking questions. And she started talking and talking and talking. And she talked for literally like an hour and a half during dinner. And as they're going out to the car, she says to her husband, and he hasn't said anything except asked a few questions. He says, honey, that's the best conversation we've ever had. Because you see, you have to think about, for a man, testosterone goes up when you accomplish something, when you achieve something, when you overcome something, you feel good about yourself. Any man who has self-esteem, you look back at many things that you've overcome, things that were challenging, things that were difficult for you, but you succeeded and you got recognition for it. You feel proud of that. That feeling of pride and confidence, that's testosterone. Now, the force against men feeling their strength and their confidence and their testosterone, the force against it is estrogen. Too much estrogen lowers testosterone. This is just plumbing. This is biology. So it behooves us to understand what are symptoms of too much estrogen so we can stop that. Well, it turns out that whenever you're angry, men, when you're angry, your estrogen levels are spiking and your testosterone's going down. Anytime you argue with your wife, where you fight her, you're like, no, that's not true, but you didn't. She says, you never do this. And he says, well, you never do that. And then she says, well, you didn't do this. He says, but you did that. And then she says, no, I didn't do that. And you say, well, I didn't do that. And you go back and forth, and you're like children. We do this as adults. Why do we do it in intimate relationships more? Because in intimate relationships, we open our heart to be affected by our partner. My wife can take me higher than anybody else when she loves me. If I love her, I can take her higher than anybody else. So we open ourselves to let somebody affect us, to influence us. So if they're not happy with us, it has a bigger influence. If they're happy with us, it has a bigger influence. And so we have to become aware of how to have the influence on your partner that brings out the best in them. So what men don't know is we have to find ways that we keep our testosterone up. I talked a little bit about our wives. If you come home to a wife that doesn't complain about you, but a wife who's happy to see you, a wife who overlooks your mistakes, a wife who isn't looking at you with disapproval, but with, boy, am I lucky to find this guy. You are the luckiest guy in the world. That bumps up your testosterone. But that's one thing. I see the hand coming up. Let me just finish this one point. That's her bumping up your testosterone. But what can I do to bump up my testosterone? I need to notice the symptoms of low testosterone and not go in that direction. And it turns out that whenever a man is angry, and he talks, his estrogen goes higher and higher and higher. And women, when you're angry, they'll ask you questions and try to get you to talk more. That's the craziest thing. It actually makes it worse and worse, because for women, if they're angry and somebody actually can listen to them without getting angry back, they will always feel better. There's a love guarantee. When my wife used to get angry, I'd be so lucky if I can get her to talk, because I knew within 5 minutes, she's going to be grateful for me listening to her without getting angry back. And if men just understood that, it's a love guarantee if you learn how to listen. But as soon as she's done, and now you say, well, you shouldn't be upset about that. Well, that's not really a problem. Boom, she starts all over. You don't get any points. So being a good listener is key, but at the same time, I need to regulate what goes on inside of me. Because if I'm angry, you get no points from a woman, but we do get angry. Everybody gets angry at times when we're feeling stressed. As men, our estrogen's too high. So what do? You listen to Buddha, you listen to the great yogis of the past. And what do? They teach meditation. What is meditation? Is don't talk. That's it. Stop talking. Stop talking. Forget it. Forget it. Don't worry about it. Be gone. Do something to forget what just happened. Cool down. When you're cool, calm, and reflected, and you forget all your problems, forget it. And that's what we say to women all the time. We say, forget it, forget it. But if you do that to a woman, you're pouring gasoline on the fire. It just gets worse. Because talking about their feelings makes them happier, lowers their stress because it raises their estrogen. Talking about your feelings, if you're a man, if they're positive feelings, great, no problem. Because if you're positive, your testosterone's high. Now your estrogen's rising. But if you're feeling negative emotions, anger, hurt, fear, defensiveness, argumentative, the first thing a man needs to do, stop talking, disengage, go do something to forget it, to feel good. Because if you can do something where you're successful, your testosterone goes up. If you're talking to her and you don't feel successful, because she's not saying you're the greatest guy in the world, and you're taking it personally, whatever's bothering her, then what you do is now you start trying to tell her not to feel what she feels. Inevitably, she will go, yes, but, yes, but, yes, but, and you won't feel successful. And now your estrogen's rising more and more. Your testosterone's going down. You're starting to feel argumentative, which is a moment of frustration and anger, fear and concern. That's the emotions underneath it. And what's going to happen, the more you talk at that time, the higher your estrogen levels go. You got to come back to testosterone. Women have to learn, don't ask him questions, don't engage him if he's upset. And men have to learn how to stop talking, take time, pull away. And that's a big, big part of my books is men need to go to their cave time. And of course, I was a yogi. I don't know if you know that, but for 9 years, I was a celibate monk yogi. And I learned how to meditate. I learned to go to my cave and find my happiness. That's where I figured all this stuff out. If my wife upset me, I stopped talking. I went and meditated. I forgot the whole thing. My heart opened. Then I reflected on how did I make that situation worse? Now, it's always easy to see how she made the situation worse. I always will look at that too. But I realized telling her what she does wrong doesn't make her feel any better and doesn't change her. Does her telling you what you did wrong make any difference? No. If you resist someone, the problem will persist. We have to learn how to let go of our resistance, take care of ourselves, then do something to bring out the best in our partner. And if you're still not getting what you want, then you educate your partner by first acknowledging how good they are in some way, and then asking for more in small increments and give them big rewards. That's how you train people. And particularly women, men are very trainable if you just understand this stuff. Women are not so easily trained, but they're easily nurtured to open their heart and find forgiveness and love, and that naturally comes out of them. Because you have to realize estrogen is the love hormone, and that's all we men really, really want is the love. So you had your hand up, Leo. What was that about?
Yes. What are the natural ways that we can increase the estrogen level in women and increase the testosterone level in male? Is there anything that we can do?
Yeah, well, there's behaviors and then there's nutrition. But behavior-wise, You're asking what I can do for my partner. That's what you asked. Okay, what I can do for her is understand the three kinds of love that open up a woman up. Basically, when a woman feels safe, her estrogen levels will start to go up, because safety is that oxytocin hormone. Physical affection, non-sexual, attention, compliments, occasional touching of the hair, offering to help, planning something for her so that she feels more special than the children, or more special than your clients. And sometimes your children are more special, but she will start to feel, oh, she's just a servant around the house. That means her estrogen's way down. So you got to perk them up, just like you need perks, they need perks. So those are oxytocin stimulators. Now the big estrogen stimulator, oxytocin does raise estrogen, but then there's saying things that are just straight oxytocin, straight estrogen stimulators. And that is when a woman can talk about what's going on inside and share with you thoughts, feelings, emotions, wishes, attitudes, mindsets that she wouldn't share with anybody else. That's called intimacy. See, intimacy occurs when I undress before my wife and I don't do it before anybody else. See, it's like, it's something special. It's like you say, this is just for you. I only do this for you. And that's when a woman says, I'm going to share with you things that I wouldn't share with anybody. Now, what would that be? That produces huge amounts of estrogen, right? And of course, there has to be some oxytocin where she feels safe, then she's willing to do that. And that's a big, big estrogen stimulator. Now, what's even a bigger estrogen stimulator, and that is asking for help. If a woman asks you for help and she trusts that you're going to respond in the best way possible, that you're going to respond and do your best. It doesn't have to be perfect, but she trusts that it's your best. But she asks for help and she gets it. She gets another huge estrogen spike. So what I see happening, and I came to all this conclusion, I've been doing this over 40 years, actually almost 50 years, if I look at my early years. What happens with women is they'll come into my office and they'll have all these complaints about their husbands. And they all want me to say, how can I change him? What can I do to change him? How do I get him to do this? He's always the problem. Now, what I know is she's always the problem. She's always the problem. Never is he the only problem. He's a problem, of course, but he's not in my office. He's not asking for my help. He's not saying, hey, John, how can I do this differently so my wife is happy? And unless he's asking me, what I have to say doesn't work at all. It can't work. He has to be asking for that help. Whereas for a woman, she'll come into my office, she wants help, but the only help she wants is how to change him. Now, I don't tell her that that's useless right away. Otherwise, she feels like I'm not listening to her. So I say, well, before we look into those practical solutions, I need to understand you a little bit more. I need to understand what you do and how you feel and how it affects you. And so for a few sessions, she's very patient as I do that. And as I continue to ask her questions, don't solve them, but say the basic questions are, help me understand that better. What else? Okay, tell me more about that. When? What did he say? Well, how did that feel? Well, tell me how that, let's talk more about that. Let's talk more about, you see, I'm just getting her to look inside herself and tell me what's going on in her. And I'm not trying to change her. I'm basically just hearing what she's saying, and to a great extent empathizing with feelings of frustration or feeling with anger, but not making it right or wrong, just relating to it in some way. And what happens after 2 or 3 sessions, every time she comes, she leaves happier. Every time she comes, she leaves happier. And I point out to her, do you notice how you feel better just by talking about your feelings and nothing has changed in your life? And it's like a revelation. Yeah, nothing has changed in my life and I feel better. And have you noticed your husband's changing a little bit too? He says, yeah, he seems to be doing better. He's noticing me more. Well, yeah, because you got a smile on your face. Yeah, because you're not trying to change him so much. You put that on hold for 3 weeks. If you give up trying to change your partner and focus on what you need, it's talking about those feelings. And if a woman can do that and feel safe, now she did it with me, she feels better. If she can do it with her husband, she'll also feel good. But often women say to me, why is it that you can listen to my feelings and my husband can't? He always argues. And I say, well, let's just understand the dynamic here. First of all, when you come and talk to me, you're here for only 50 minutes. So I get to hear your complaining for only 50 minutes a week, not all week. That's one thing. Two is when you complain, and this is probably the biggest thing, you talk about your negative feelings. It's never about me. I never feel like I have to defend myself. I'm the good guy here. He's the bad guy. So yeah, it's easy for me to listen because you're not trying to change me. If you were trying to change me, I would not be the great therapist. I would be changing you back because I'm a man. And if you try to change a man, he'll change you back. Change a woman, she'll change you back. Nobody likes to be changed. We like to be loved. That's what a relationship's about. And then the third thing I say is I say, now here's another thing that's very important. You're not here for too long. You're not complaining about me, and you pay me. I wouldn't do this if you didn't pay me. You know, it's a hard truth. I thought you were my friend. No, you pay me. I'm doing my job. I'm a fireman. I put out fires. That's what I do for a living. You know, I help women feel happier, help men feel happier, help people have better relationships, but I'm doing it for money. I'm not just doing this for, I feel like, oh, you're my good friend and I'm doing that. I like you and so forth, but you have to pay me. Otherwise I stop. Your husband needs to be paid. What? I shouldn't have to pay my husband. I said, what do you think the payment is for your husband? She goes, I don't know. What do you think? Sex? I go, not sex. It's love. You need to appreciate what he does, his efforts, whatever he does, and give him opportunities to do more for you and be appreciated for it. You know, often once a woman starts feeling this resentment, like I do and I give and I give and I don't get back. That's what they all say. I give and I don't get back, and their heart closes. And then sometimes that's the woman's feeling, and I counsel the man, I coach the man, and I said, now I want you to start doing things. Offer to help your partner. You know what she says? No, I can do it myself. No, I can do it myself. Literally, she resists letting him be the good guy. Once women are out of balance, hormonally out of balance, they don't allow a man to do things for them. You know, it's a simple thing. It's a simple thing when you say to a woman, oh, such a beautiful outfit. You say to a woman, oh, what a beautiful outfit. And she says, oh, but there's a tear here, or this isn't good. You know, she can't receive. The thing women have to learn is how to receive and how to receive help from a man. And of course, what women do when they can't receive is they go, well, if he loved me, he would automatically do it. If I have to ask him to help me, it doesn't count. And if I ask him to help me once, he should always remember. None of those things are true. If you ask a man and he says, no, I don't want to help you, then he doesn't love you. If you ask a man to do something for you and he says, sure, I'll be happy to do that for you, that's because he loves you. But many women, they go into, oh, if you love me, you would automatically do it. Why do I have to ask? And I say, you have to. That's part of life. That's called being a grown-up. Children don't have to ask. When you're a grown-up, you ask. If you don't get, you ask, and you don't demand. Demanding is where you get upset with your partner. See, every time you complain, it affects him and it lowers his testosterone. It's even in your mind. Many women go, no, I don't complain. But in your mind, you're complaining. You just told me for 20 minutes all your complaints. And then she say, yeah, but I never tell him. Doesn't matter. It's in your eyes. How do you get rid of all these complaints? It's your own negativity. You're a negative person if you're complaining. You have to get that. You're not loving. Now, how to be loving? Realize complaint is like in you. What do you do with it? It's like a man who's angry. What does he do with it? He stops talking. He needs to go back, open his heart, and the anger will go away. And then he thinks about, what did I do to make the problem worse? What does a woman do when she complains? Well, it's there and it gets stuck. She has to talk about it. And so she doesn't talk about it to her husband. She talks about it to somebody else. That's what the women coming to me do. They talk to me. They're not complaining about me. She has girlfriends. She can talk to her girlfriends. If you don't have friends you can talk to, then you hire somebody to do it. That's called a coach or a therapist. So you talk to them. Don't talk to your mother. Okay. Your mother will just make it worse. Just want you to know that. And don't share your personal problems about your partner with your mother, because your mother doesn't forgive. Okay. The truth is, if you have a relationship and you have all this resentments and suddenly your husband does some really nice things for you and you have some wonderful intimate experience, a romantic getaway, you forget all those problems. Your family members don't forget. They only have one exposure. So don't put your dirty laundry in your relationship out to your family. It's not a healthy thing to do if you want to have passion in your life. If you just want to be having a boring relationship, then you can seek out comfort from your family members by sharing your dirty laundry. Go to your girlfriends. They don't mind. They don't care. Share with them. You listen to them back. They'll share all this stuff. But when you can express your complaints, you can get a distance from it. Now, and then you can let it go. But then you start to realize, and here's the real powerful thing, you start to realize every complaint is a request. That's what they are. Every complaint is a negative emotion of hurt or anger or fear or defensiveness. And behind that is something that you want, and you're trying to get it by complaining. So let's just use some simple logic. Did complaining ever get you what you want? In an intimate relationship, no. What an intimate relationship is about is you find somebody who wants to do what you like, who wants to give you more. When I can do a little something for my wife, she appreciates it. That makes me happy. You know, if I take her to the movies and she liked the movie, on an emotional level, I'm just like any other man. I feel like I wrote that movie. I feel like, yes, I'm a great movie director or writer or photographer or whatever. When a woman is happy, men will always take credit. The problem is when women are unhappy, we take credit. And then we feel like she's saying I failed. So we need to get over that hump eventually. Women can use that wisdom, but as men, we need to realize that's a little bit of neurosis on our part, where our happiness, feeling good about ourselves, is totally dependent on our wife's mood. See, you come home from work, you're feeling really good, your wife's starting to complain about you, she's in a bad mood, and you crash. You go, oh, I don't want to listen to her, she's so negative. So what you do is you make your happiness too dependent on her. Now, certainly you don't want that all the time, but there's always going to be times where your wife's not perfect, just like there's always times where a man's not perfect. So what you want to do is have metaphors. I think metaphors are very helpful. You know, he's from Mars, she's from Venus. When it comes to women and their mood, they're like the weather. Okay, women are like the weather. The sun is really always shining out there, but sometimes it's night. But on the other side of the planet, the sun is shining. It's still there. The love is there. And there's a love guarantee that if you don't try to change how she feels, she'll come back to feeling love. That's the key to this thing. Sometimes there's clouds in front of it's daytime, but there's clouds in front of the sun and rain clouds. And so you use an umbrella, you put on a raincoat. What's the big deal? It's temporary. Weather is always changing. We don't have a problem with it, generally speaking, with the weather, even though it changes and it's not always perfect. We adapt. And we can adapt without taking it personally. Oh my God, God's mad at me. I'm a bad person, or it shouldn't be this way. No, because we realize these are things we cannot change. See, when you realize something happens, you can't change it. You're not upset about it. You accept it. I can't change it. I accept it. And so what happens to women, well, now they're off on their male side all day long now doing these jobs, producing testosterone, but they're still women. Under stress, women produce 8 times more blood flow to the emotional part of the brain. There's a lot of stuff going on inside of her that you'll never know about, men, and she doesn't want to admit to. There's all kinds of disappointments and jealousies and hurt feelings and anger, and she's smiling, you know, like this, and yes, 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 moving her head. But all this stuff is going on inside of her, but it's inappropriate, particularly in the business world, to express it. So she suppresses it. So that's what we know in psychology, is that if you suppress emotions, you become unaware of them, but they have an effect on you. And when you suppress emotions, what it does for women is that it suppresses estrogen. If a man suppresses emotion, what does it do? It suppresses estrogen. That's a good thing. See, so psychology has completely messed men up. Because that's like, oh, you should talk about your feelings, talk about your feelings. Like, no, don't, until you feel good. When you feel good, like you feel confident, then if you have negative emotions, you can explore them. There's a healing process you can do, and that's okay to look at what you're feeling from the point of view of understanding myself better, so I can now not have such strong reactions. That's therapeutic. But as far as business goes, as far as interacting with your wife goes, don't express negative emotion. Whatever you do, why are you doing it? You're always doing it to change them. You see, and when you try negative emotion, it's the worst thing for men to act on, to speak on, to share with somebody, unless you're talking to another guy. There's a benefit also of being with other guys, talking about, oh, my wife did this, she said this, and you laugh about it. That's the way women are. They're irrational. They're overreactive. They're a little cuckoo, but aren't they wonderful? And you always have to finish it with, isn't she great? Am I lucky? So, but you laugh about it. You lighten up if you're going to talk about your complaints, and you don't get heavy with your complaints. Complaints are real, and you can create change in the world, but you do it reasonably. You don't use emotions to push people. It's like in America, the ideal thing is you stand up, you want change, you demonstrate in the street, but you don't use violence. And I'll just throw it in right now that most of that violence is hired perpetrators to make demonstrators look bad. That's an unfortunate situation. There's millions of people demonstrating right now. It's an amazing time. And why? Because they're all stuck at home, by the way. They have to get out. This would have never happened without COVID, okay? So like, let me get with some other people here, being alone in the home. And since we're all in COVID right now, it's a disaster for marriages, okay? What's happening in marriages? For single people, actually, they're learning to find their happiness without looking to somebody. And that's good. And so now when they're dating again, when they start dating, they're looking for more meaningful relationships because they're back in touch with what they really need. You see, when you take away what you want, when all the things we want this, we want this, we want this, we got Tinder, we're looking at this person and this person, who do I want? I have so much to compare from. It's such a superficial thing. In the Bhagavad Gita, it talks about the senses have a mind of their own. If you show it to my senses, they say, go for it. You see, it controls us. All this stimulation of seeing on Facebook, these people, I was just looking on Facebook. People look so happy. They always take pictures of themselves when they're so happy. You don't see them when they're mad at each other. You don't see them when they're in arguments. They all look so happy, happy, happy. And then you go, why are we not so happy? And so again, the senses want what they see. But right now, as people are stuck in homes, a lot of single people are actually now, when they start to date again, they're coming back to, I really want a more significant relationship based upon love, based upon our needs, based upon what's most important in life. I started out by talking about this thing I saw from Steve Jobs. You know, he spent his whole life just trying to create an invention to create success. And thank goodness he did. He's brilliant, genius, and all of that, but never a happy person, okay? Except a few times when he's in his creative thing. His relationships were a mess, and he died an unhappy person. He said, you know, I missed out. I missed out. I didn't value that which is most important. And I know people who want money. They think, oh, give me money and I'll be happy. And it does, makes me happy, very happy. But it gives you, whatever you are, it makes more of that. If you're an unhappy person looking for money to make you happy, money will just make you more unhappy. If you're a happy person and you make money, it makes you more happy. But it also brings up a lot of challenges, which this is not the purpose of this talk. But coming back to men and women with this whole thing of estrogen, it's so key. You asked how to create more estrogen. Talking about her feelings is one, and a man is safe. A man must be interested. A man must not react. A man must be cool, calm, and collected. An example of that is it's good to see examples. Watch some Chinese kung fu movies. Go on Netflix, you'll find them. There's some Chinese kung fu movies. There's the Crouching something Tiger. It was an Academy Award winning movie. That's one of them, for example. And look at the heroes. The heroes have battles and they never get upset. You should just watch this over and over. I love these movies because they're the example of real masculinity. And also real femininity. They can be in battles as well, and they're smiling, you know, they fly. It's like, this is who we can be if we had that role model and realize these other reactivities that go on, they're all due to conditioned response, just like we have instincts. You know, who controls your digestion? You don't. It's automatic. Well, we have all these conditioned responses and how we relate that are automatic, and they come from our parents when they were under stress. Because you have to realize when you're under stress, your hormones are out of balance, cortisol is being produced, it's a stress hormone, blood flow stops to the front part of the brain. And for me, as a man, when cortisol goes up, testosterone goes down. For a woman, when cortisol gets produced, testosterone goes up, estrogen goes down. These are like biological responses. So having a stress response, we're out of balance. But key, what happens is the stress responses occur when we feel out of control. When you're out of control, then this part of the brain no longer works. This is where you can have compassion. This is where you have communication skills. This is where you can have leadership skills. This is where you can make a change. This is where you can change your point of view. This is where you can adapt to be inclusive, where you can create win-win situations. It only occurs when blood flow goes to this part of the brain. And when you're in a state of fight or flight, blood flow stops here. You basically, lose your sense of control, controlling you, not other people. People who seek to control others are not in control of themselves. Then these conditioned responses happen. Where did you learn those conditioned responses? Because they are learned by being a little child watching your parents when they're under stress. That's it. And where did they, because your brain is still malleable, all the brain circuits are being, some are being encouraged, others are being left out. The brain is actually much, much bigger in our early years and shrinks because all the parts of all of our potentials, if they're useful, and if we see it, then they grow and the other parts of the brain go into dormant and actually shrink. So your parents, their way of coping with stress, which is life or death, it's called hunger, it's called survival, it's called security. It's the basic, most important needs for a child is to get fed. So what we do is we mimic those conditioned responses. Now, where did those conditioned responses in our parents come from? They came from, and what are those conditioned responses? Basically, it's fight, flight, that's withdrawing, faking, pretending, or folding, giving in. Okay, those are your basic stress responses. You want to fight, you want to run away from it. That's what procrastination is, for example. You want to pretend, that's fake, put on a smile like everything's fine when it's not, or you give in and you do what somebody says, you submit and you follow and you don't have any sense of self. You become a doormat. Those are all different responses that are conditioned into our brain, which makes us all different people when our hormones are out of balance. Now, where did we learn it? We learned it from our parents. Where did they learn it? They learned it from their parents. And where did those parents learn it from? From their parents, all the way back to when we were monkeys. See, we are monkeys with this human part of our brain right here, only the size of our palm is this part of the brain that's different from a monkey in terms of the DNA. So we are monkeys except for right here. Our programming, our digestion, our instincts, our sex drive, all these things are controlled by the subconscious mind, not our conscious mind. So the conscious mind can direct everybody to move in the direction we want if we don't let it control us. So an example of it controlling us is, let's say you're angry with your partner and you want them to change and you won't give up. They say, I don't want to talk about this. No, we're going to talk about this now. Okay, that push. Who's doing that? Not you. You're out of control. Whenever you make a demand on somebody else to change for your happiness, you're out of control. Because if you were in control, you'd know that you have the ability to come inside and find your happiness. And you don't know you have that ability till you practice that. So for me, one of the practices that helped me so easily is I was a celibate monk for 9 years. Not that everybody has to be a celibate monk for 9 years, but boy, do I have a great sex life now because of it. Because I can regulate my sex desire just to my partner, as opposed to anybody walking by. You see, so meditation is learning to bring your attention back, bring your attention back, bring your attention back. So your mind becomes very clear. I can write a book in 30 days. I ideas and I sit down and I write, 10, 12 hours a day. Why? Because I was a monk for 9 years and I was celibate. Celibacy, always in the Indian tradition, was for the student, not for the adult. It was for the student to develop the brain. Your brain power increases. Every time you do porn and release your energy, you're weakening your brain. And biologically, you can't measure that yet. But what you can measure is your testosterone is blocked 50%. 50%. So I want to teach something for couples to keep their passion alive. Now, first of all, you need to feel like you're getting what you need. Okay. And women need to feel safe. Men need to feel successful. We've been talking about that. And how, if my wife doesn't give me messages that make me feel successful, because sometimes it's a storm brewing, sometimes there's clouds, sometimes it's winter, sometimes it's springtime, sometimes it's summer. These are natural phenomena that occur in every marriage because that's the way women are. They're connected with nature. It's always changing. And so what happens if I'm so affected by that weather, my testosterone goes down, I have to know how to rebuild my testosterone. So I mentioned for me, it's certainly not by releasing my energy online. That will just lower my testosterone more. It will create a temporary release and give comfort. Oh, it's addiction. It's just like cocaine. The other thing I could do, what I like to do and what a man can do is any hobby that you're good at, something that challenges you, and it takes some thinking, but it's non-stressful and you're good at it and you enjoy it. Now, playing a video game can be somewhat of a challenge, but it can be a bit addictive, meaning that it produces too much dopamine. So a little bit is fine. You basically need some dopamine, which is challenge and focus, and a non-stressful place. So golfing, for example, when we see our presidents all go play golf, people go, why are they playing golf? We have an epidemic, we have a war going on and they're playing golf. Actually, playing golf for men is it's like a meditation. It's a time to forget your problems. You're in nature. Men don't say, hey, buddy, my good friend, let's go for a walk and talk. We don't do that. We say, let's play golf, because then you have a goal and you got balls and you hit the balls. You got a little competition. But as long as you're not betting a lot of money, it's not stressful. The stress is something within yourself that you're overcoming. For me, another thing, for example, a hobby that a man likes to do and is challenging for him, and it doesn't have to do with his survival, is going to be a testosterone producer, particularly if it's not involving his children or his wife, because his children or his wife will naturally raise his estrogen very high because he loves them. And this is a time when he needs to rebuild his testosterone. And this is the thing, when you're successful as a man, you're being challenged, you're generating testosterone. But you can also, if you hit stress, which means you don't always feel confident, some difficult things happen, you will then deplete your testosterone. So we have this testosterone reserve always. So if you're facing stress and you're trying to solve a problem, you will use up your testosterone, which typically happens for men during a stressful day when there's certain uncertainties and so forth. So at the end of the day, what a man needs is to take what I call cave time. Cave time is simply for him to sit in front of a TV, for him to meditate, for him to play a little video game, not all evening, but for a while, 20, 30 minutes, sometimes an hour. He does his hobby. For me, I drive my car. That's what I have to do during COVID because I'm not out in the world overcoming stress. I go out in my car, I go for a drive in my car. Driving your car, if you're a man, if you like driving, is a big testosterone producer. And driving your wife in the car, and that is not cave time, but if you're out of the cave feeling good, then drive your wife. Don't let her drive you. If you drive her, she has to depend on you to drive safely. That's a huge estrogen producer because she's facing danger all the time with you driving. She doesn't have a steering wheel. She doesn't have brakes. So even though we feel comfortable in cars, actually subconsciously we know we're in danger. Our life is in danger. When you're holding on to that steering wheel, just go 10 miles over the speed limit and you'll feel that little bit of danger, but you're in control. So there's a threat and I'm in control. I'm a good driver. My car's got good brakes. You'll make tons of testosterone. So that's a good cave time activity. Any sporting activity with a guy, particularly a guy, but a buddy girl could be one too. But you're competing, competition where you're not feeling that your survival is dependent upon winning. Playing games can do that. Hobbies can do that, where you're not depending on your wife's approval or her acceptance in any way. So it's more solitary. It's independent. Also just working, if I have a project, I just go work on a work project that will also rebuild my testosterone if it's non-stressful, meaning I'm not dependent on any results to get from somebody else. So it's all within myself. It's internal. These are ways men can rebuild their testosterone, feel good. Then when testosterone goes up, we naturally feel an inner instinct to be of service. When testosterone goes up, we become selfless and we want to give love. And why? Because as we give love, our own estrogen levels rise up. And now we have both testosterone and estrogen. And now you're a whole person. See, a whole person in the flow and feeling really great is having both masculine and feminine at the same time. And that's how the world has changed. That's why relationships are having so much trouble. What gives us the potential as men to have the greatest sense of creativity and flow and influence and charisma is the ability, and fulfillment is the ability to have both testosterone and estrogen in harmony and balance. And that's why we enjoy physical intimacy so much. It doesn't last long for most of us because you start out with this high level of testosterone, which now wants to find its balance by bringing estrogen up. So literally we want to connect with a woman. We don't want a woman with clothes on. We want a naked woman because we want all the femininity. And also we want the message that she feels safe and that that's special. She appreciates us so much. She can trust us so much that she would open herself up. And literally we want to connect with her. Sex is about men going inside of women. It's us visiting our female side. And it's about women trusting masculinity to let it come into her life. So it's finding that balance. We both, you know, when you have loving intimacy, what you have is a balance of masculine and feminine. And that's why we feel ecstasy. We feel these high levels of fulfillment and greater love. And then, and this is biology again, that's having intimate sex with your wife, someone you love, on Saturday night. And then you release. Okay, when a man releases, what occurs is his testosterone always goes back down to half. That's why men on Sunday morning are sitting around watching football. They have no motivation. They want to rest. They got no juice because they just lost it that night. Now, imagine I went for 9 years with never releasing juice, okay? So that's what helped my brain develop so much. If only we could teach young children to do this, this would be great, or teenagers, so to speak. But anyway, when you have sex on Saturday night, normal sex, the man releases, and that's all right. It's only once.
We don't want to listen to this.
And then what happens? Okay, here I am now. Okay, there we go. This is amazing research on Saturday night. Now, this is talking about intimate relationships, but I want to tell you why this, and I know a lot of you about having more money, greater business, better leadership skills. Leadership is charisma. People trust you. Sales is charisma. People trust you. Working together in a group is charisma. People trust you. It's you're vibrant with energy. I'm talking to the men now, and then I'll talk to the women. When your testosterone is high, you are charismatic. All charismatic people, all successful men will have these moments where they feel very accomplished and their testosterone goes up. So you see Steve Jobs, he did have charisma when he was with his team. They all thought he was an awful person because he was really cruel to people. He didn't have good relationships, but he was genius. He was in his flow because his testosterone would go very high in that position. John F. Kennedy was like a sexaholic. I don't know if you know that. It's very well known now that he had many women. Every time he went on Air Force, whatever for the presidential Air Force plane, there's always two new women for him because it would boost his testosterone. Gandhi had lots of women. You know, all the great men in the past have had lots of women. Now, am I saying you should have lots of women? I say, no, you can be even better than that. You can keep that passion, that high testosterone, high dopamine with one woman. If you can do that, you're the most trustworthy person in the world. That's how you have real success, is to love one woman. Don't have to have a new woman or a fake woman to boost your testosterone. So they would have to have a plenty supply of real women, and real women certainly produces more testosterone than this momentary thing online, which is not even a real woman who wants to be with you. But what happens is when you're a powerful John F. Kennedy, or I could list off a whole bunch of other names, movie stars and so forth that are known for having lots of girlfriends, these women are not faking it. They get in your aura and your power, your testosterone is so high, their estrogen shoots up. So that you are getting nourishment from that. But better nourishment is when it's one person that you truly have a real relationship with. And that's what I teach. You can have that, but you have to understand how to have it. So let me tell you what happens every time a man climaxes. And for most men, that means he ejaculates. Now, a more advanced technique that I can't teach today, I teach a special course on this, but it's how you can have many, many orgasms if you're a man and never ejaculate. So part of my radiance at 69 years old, you know, I'm like this young stud because I never ejaculate. Then you always can do it every day, and because you don't lose your energy. There's no passivity. You have unlimited energy and vitality, and this is advanced stuff. So I'm not teaching that now. The basic thing for a great relationship, for a woman feels special, you feel bonded to her. And that's that when you make love on Saturday night, and it's Saturday night. Why that's such a great night is because you had more time to be with her. Women need to feel time where you're getting your attention on her and you're not distracted with business or worries or whatever. And you're doing something together that you feel comfortable and safe. And she feels you interacting with her. You're doing things for her. Then suddenly her estrogen levels have a chance to rise up. It takes time. The more women are on their male side, the more help they need to come back to their female side. And that's what romance is called. That's what Saturday's about. It's no work day, no cell phones doing work. It's more attention to maybe to the children for part of the day, but her special time. She needs that to restore her estrogen. Now, your mother doesn't know that. Your mother didn't need that because all day long she was doing feminine type things, you know, cooking and cleaning and being with the neighbors, complaining about your husband, caring for your children. That's all. None of that is fight or flight. None of that is like testosterone producing so much. So she didn't have the need to come back to her female side. But when women are way on their male side, they have a greater need to come back to their female side. And so their estrogen levels go even higher. That's why women can have great sex their whole lifetime. I know when women are 75 years old, 80 years old, having great sex because they've learned how to come back to their female side. It doesn't have to go away. So having explained that, when a man has sex with his wife on Saturday night, her estrogen levels, if she has a climax, will double. Okay, that's biology. Estrogen has to double for women to climax, and a man's testosterone has to shoot to its peak. Okay, so every man will have a different high level peak, but it's much higher than his regular testosterone levels. But then his estrogen shoots higher, and then it's over. Okay, that's called ejaculation. Too much estrogen, his testosterone cut off, and it goes down. Then what happens, it's 50% for the rest of the week. It takes, maybe goes up to 60 or 70, 60%. The Japanese study measured men after they have Saturday night sex. It goes down to half. For the whole week, it stays normal, which is this low level. But on Saturday, if he hasn't released, if he hasn't masturbated, if he hasn't done online porn, if he hasn't had sex with his wife again even and ejaculated, he goes for 6 days, no ejaculation. On the 7th day, it's measurable, it's expected, it's determined biologically, his testosterone levels will double. And when his testosterone levels will double, then his estrogen can go higher. He'll feel more love for his partner. She will feel more love from him, more desire from him. She will have a better sexual experience and her heart will open up more. And this will allow her to get something she needs, which is to sort of ring that bell of high estrogen, because now she's going to go back into the testosterone world, but her brain will anticipate coming back to that in her relationship. And so that keeps her estrogen levels relatively high at a good place. So what I'm saying there is sexual health. It's not the only solution, but it's so much good research on showing how we can balance our hormones and how powerful it is. But it's not like you can just suddenly say, let's go have great sex. You have to start having relationship skills. I mentioned for women, what they can do for themselves, anytime a woman does something, not depending on her partner, but depending on someone else, some other circumstance, some other situation, or herself, that she enjoys, that she loves, that she feels, I get to do it. And usually it's situations of peacefulness, harmony, cooperation, and nurturing. So these would be examples of estrogen stimulators. Go see your doctor. Whenever you go see your doctor and have him tell you something for your health, if you feel I need advice to be healthier, if I need advice to protect myself or my children, whenever you feel I need help, your estrogen goes up. So doctors have it numbers after their name, whatever, PhD or something. Oh, this is an expert. Go to an expert for something and your estrogen levels will go up. Go to an expert in singing and sing with them and your estrogen levels will go up if you like singing. Go to an expert on cooking if you like cooking and learn how to cook better from somebody who knows more than you. If you can use a resource and let them guide you. You know, I was a yogi when I was a child. At 3 years old, my father taught me yoga, even though I lived in Texas. I had unusual parents. And And so then when I went to India, I've been to India many, many times, but when I was with the yogis, men, we were the ones who did the yoga asanas and so forth. And we did it alone. We didn't do it in a group together. But see, now yoga is so popular for women today because they're way on their male side. So they're really into pushing their bodies and having great bodies and strength. But it also produces estrogen because they're doing it in a group. And they do it in a group. They do it with soft music. And they do it with a leader who's telling them what to do. Anytime a woman is depending on someone to tell her what to do, her estrogen levels will go up. Anytime it's yielding, it's being the follower, it's letting someone guide you, it's letting someone help you. Whenever a woman goes to that place, her estrogen levels will go up. When a woman goes to the place of, I'm in charge, I'm the controller, I have to do it, nobody's going to help me, I can help you. And ironically, when you're in a place of giving, you're actually on your male side. Why is it that every time a woman is unhappy, she says to me, I'm a giver? She's like, my husband doesn't give to me. If you ever give a man more than he gives to you, you're training him to give you less. This is like amazing. This is the opposite of what everybody thinks. And I want to give another good communication skill because I think, I see what our time, I don't have much time left, but I want to say, here's some very practical ones, how to ask for what you want, ladies, because that's how you're going to build up your estrogen with your spouse. They have the greatest power. If you do your basic, get your estrogen up to a good level, he can take you so much higher when you ask him to do things for you. If you haven't taken care of your life, if you're not a happy person, he can't make you happier. If you're a happy person, he can make you happier. See, that's the dynamic. We don't look to our partners to make us happy. If we're unhappy, it's never our partner's fault. It's our fault for not finding ways within ourselves through mindsets, through yogic practices, through hypnosis, through babysitting, through taking care of your children, through gardening, through singing, through groups, through service, through demonstrating, whatever it is that makes you feel that you get to do it. Whenever women, you feel, I have to do this, that's drudgery, that's obligation, that's, I'll go broke if I don't do this, this pressure. Whenever you feel that pressure, you're making testosterone. You're not making estrogen. You're sucking the life force out of you unless you also balance it. So you balance it over here. So certainly, if you're a surgeon and you're a woman, there's a lot of pressure and a lot of focus. But if you have nurturing aspect of your life outside of your work, then you're able to anticipate coming home to that. Then when you're focused, it's not stress. You can be totally focused in life and danger situations and not feel stressed. You have focus. You don't have to have anger in order to ask for help and get it. It actually sabotages you. People say, oh, you need fear in order to avoid bad things. You don't have to have fear to avoid bad things. Fear only attracts bad things into your life. There's no function of it. It's monkey function. I use reason. I don't do things because it makes sense to me. Okay, that's why you do things. It makes sense. Why do you get other people to do things for you? Because you do things for them. And then you let them know in a way that doesn't blame them what they can do for you. So here's an example of one of my wife's frustrations. We live in a big house and she'll say, John, you left the lights on in the living room again. Okay, now, in the beginning, it's a little thing, right? He left the lights on. She says, I had to turn them out. Then it continues happening for quite a while. She complains, you left the lights on again. Because see, when I go from the bedroom to the TV room, you walk through the living room. It's a big room. So you have to turn the light on as you're going through. So I have my reasons for it. But the bottom line is, for years, I left the lights on when I went through. No matter how much she complained, it didn't change me. And it wasn't like I went, gee, I'll try. I don't want to do it because she's complaining. It's just you don't create change in people, positive change, by trying to change them. And she was frustrated with me. She was disapproving of me. She'd get really upset about it. And now, why be upset because the lights are on? Because now she's telling herself a story. He doesn't love me. Because if he loved me, he would do what I say. If he loved me, he would change. And that's her own problem. You see, she's being so negative. And then I didn't change. And I wasn't punishing her. I just would forget. Then she changed her tune. She read my books, basically. I don't teach her this stuff, but she would read my books and she learned men are different. So what she did is she tried a different approach. And she said, I left the light on one time. She says, "Oh, John, I just turned out the light. You forgot again. It's not a big deal, but when you remember, I really appreciate it." So she said that once. Not a big deal. That's the first thing. You got to qualify it. You want a man to hear you even, you have to say, it's not a big deal. It's the opposite of what monkeys do. If monkeys want you to change, they get upset. And then if you don't change, they get more upset and they punish you and they withhold and they judge you and they criticize you and they hit you. You know, this is like monkeys. It doesn't work with people. So then the next thing, she said, it's not a big deal. And then she happily went and turned out the light. Next time she says, "Oh, John, I noticed you turned the light, you left the light on, but I'm noticing you're turning it off more often. So thank you. But sometimes you still forget. So if you can remember, I'd appreciate it." And then walked out of the room. See, each time there wasn't like this stare. So are you going to do it? Are you going to remember this time? What women have to know about men is whenever you have a negative message and you look at him, how do men cope with negative messages? They're stressful. What do men do to cope with stress? We forget it. So the more you give negative messages, the more men are going to forget it. You're actually training him to forget whatever your request is by using negativity to change him. You see now why all of your attempts to have better relationships are failing today. It used to be a time where you didn't have to have all these sophisticated communication techniques and couples could live in harmony. Why was that? Because it was a different time. Women could not be financially independent on their own. They were dependent on men. And that's a whole different dynamic. As soon as women are not dependent on men, even if you are dependent, the fact that you live in a world where you could get a job, you could support yourself, even if you're depending on him, it's still a different world. There used to be a world where women were dependent on men for their survival, financial survival. And before that, it would be security, protection. You needed a guy with muscles who could protect people from stealing from you. So you needed a man, particularly if you're going to get pregnant and have babies, you have to have somebody you can depend on who cares more about you than anybody else. If he cares about other people, then he's going to leave you for them and you're going to be left and die. So you always look for the best man who cared about you. Now, in my parents' relationship, they're a traditional, what I'll call role mate relationship, not soulmate. A soulmate relationship is certain ways of relating, communication style that I've been talking about that nurtures a man's testosterone, a woman's estrogen, that brings us closer together with greater communication, greater empathy, greater compassion, greater connectedness, greater understanding, and greater acceptance. All of that is a soulmate relationship. Why do I call it soulmate? Because it brings your soul more into the body. You see, that's what it's all, that's what spiritual evolution's about, is bringing the goodness that the universe is, this beautiful divine force, into your body, through your body. And there's nothing more powerful than being in a relationship and overcoming the challenges to not do that. So I was a monk. I could go into meditation, glorious meditation experiences I do every day, but that doesn't bring it down into the body. That doesn't bring it into the bedroom. That's when you bring real love into your body. You can be high and low, bring the light into the darkness. Light can only move into your life if you're aware of the darkness and you overcome it with the light. So we're always going to be challenged in our lives, and there's no greater challenge than sustaining attraction and love and devotion with one person. When you're with somebody else, you've got a back door, so you don't face your own challenges. If you're not turned on to your wife, go online, get turned on there, get that release of energy, and it's gone. You didn't recycle it through your partner. You didn't look at your issues that keep you from being a loving partner. You didn't look at your issues that keep her from being a loving partner. She has to look at herself as well. We need education. So back to that's soulmate relationship. Role mate relationship. Role mate is my father, my mother had a harmonious relationship. They didn't divorce. They wouldn't even think about divorce. They had a great life together and they had 7 children and they were happy and they were fulfilled, and never did I see them kissing. I knew when I was really young, they used to be in the same bedroom, and later they were different bedrooms, and they were very happy. They didn't have the expectation and the requirement and the need that people have today. My mother's dream was to have a family in a safe neighborhood and an abundant life. So what did she do? She found a man. They're both Stanford graduates, highly educated. My dad had a good job. And so he was a good provider. That's primarily all she needed from him, was he made money, He wasn't too messy, but he also had enough money to hire someone to clean the house. So that was good for my mother. So he made money. And he also, one of the things he did is he didn't get angry. You know, he made a point of never being angry with a woman. You know, men used to be taught that. You don't get angry with your wife. You don't get angry with your children. What you get, but he did get angry. He would sit on TV and be angry at the government. So he would get angry about politics. So he had a place to vent it. But so he never got angry with my mother. So she felt safe in that way. He made plenty of money and I never saw an argument or a fight. So there was harmony, but clearly they were sleeping in different bedrooms at a certain point because the passion will go away if we don't come closer. He did his job. She did her job. They had roles and they played their roles. And culture defined a woman's role because all those more traditional female things stimulate estrogen. And all those things that men do, you know, to grow up with the pressure to make money, to provide for a woman. I remember as a young boy, you know, that was a lot of pressure. I mean, one day I'm gonna have to work and make all this money to get a woman to love me. And wow, that's a big pressure. And some men collapse under that pressure. But if you had a role model, your father, and you had education, then you could live up to that pressure and become strong, confident. But it's pressure that strengthens masculinity, but not stressful pressure. Think about going to a gym. If you want to build muscles, that's testosterone. You don't pick up light weights. If you have light weights, you don't build muscle. If life's too easy and you're a man, you don't build masculinity. You'll see that men who have rich fathers often, not always, but most often become drug addicts, alcoholics, and womanizers and can't make a commitment to one woman. They're impulsive. They want everything now. They're big babies. I want it now, or why, I have to have it now. And these are your really rich guys. They treat people like peons. You know, they don't have any compassion. They don't have empathy. They don't work for the love. See, men got to work for it. They've never had to work. They've had immediate gratification. Everybody treats them so well. You see this with movie stars. They all get divorced. They all end up having several divorces. They all have affairs. They all end up in what is it? What they call when they go to the drug rehab. They go to rehab. You're not even a certified celebrity if you haven't gone to rehab 1 or 2 times. What is it? Drug addiction. Well, drug addiction is a painful life. Anybody who's addicted to drugs has suffering and pain inside, and so much suicide with these people. So much. And it's not to say that other people don't have some of these problems, but theirs are magnified. And it's because they had some talent and they got love real easily with it. And those who have worked harder for it have a better time. But when you don't earn your love, your masculinity goes weak. And women, if you try to earn love, you become weak in your femininity. Your masculine becomes strong, your feminine becomes weak, and therefore you're never happy. These are unhappy women. These are women who have accomplished and achieved. They can't fall in love with a man. They can't enjoy sex with a man. They're too far on that feeling of, I have to do it all myself. I can't trust anybody else. So this is kind of a picture of some of the problems. It's a picture of some of the solutions. I know we're going to talk for an hour and a half. I know we've done an hour and a half, but I'm happy to answer any other questions you might have, and I'll try to give short answers.
Thank you, John, because even when I called, of course, I really knew that it's going to be an amazing presentation. I read your book many times, but I never expected this much. It is really, really a valuable information. And of course, many people may have definitely made use of this one. And it's a good recording. So it's going to be a lifelong and long-lasting opportunity for people to learn more. And yes, you already gave some information about that. You mentioned when you don't get, you give less. So that concept, if you can a little bit elaborate, it may be understandable.
Actually, let me articulate it. When a woman gives more to a man than she feels he gives to her, she's training him to be lazy, and she will resent giving more. You see, the more a woman resents you, the less energy you will have to give to her. And also, if a man, let's say he's just sitting on the couch watching TV, and you feel like, oh, I have such a wonderful husband. And that's all great. He's doing nothing, and you're appreciating him. You're appreciating him because something he did before allows you to appreciate him. Then he's sitting there. But then you start to feel like, you know, he's sitting there all the time and he really doesn't do much for me. And then she starts thinking about how much she does for him that he doesn't appreciate, he doesn't reciprocate. She starts to feel resentful. As soon as she feels I'm giving more than I'm getting, she will first feel resistance, then she will feel resentment. And when you start resenting your partner, you take away their feeling of success and they'll never come out of their cave. Now, here's the catch. When a man goes to his cave, we need our time to decompress where we're not thinking about winning your love, doing things to make you happy. We have to make ourselves happy. Then we can do things for you. So sometimes I'm in my cave and I'm really having a good time. Maybe I'm watching a Netflix movie or something like that. And my wife, what she'll say is, John, when you're done, I need your help. She has to say that. Otherwise, I'll just watch another movie because it feels good. I assume if she's not asking for more, that she's happy because she's over there. She's a happy woman, but she knows I can make her happier and she wants to stay in that zone. And she's learned asking for help and getting it is a very powerful way to bump up a woman's estrogen. And I'll give you a real brief technique for couples in COVID time where they're all stuck together. So many people are wanting divorce now. It's just, it's unhealthy to be with somebody all the time. My basic principle for a good marriage is 90% of your happiness should come from you and your life, separate from your partner. Only 10% of your happiness comes from your partner. They take you from feeling good to feeling great. That's a great relationship. Then, if you're 90% happy and your wife has nothing to give to you or even tries to bring you down, you're 90% happy. She can't bring you down. See, we need to realize we can be happy on our own, and our partners then, romantic love takes us from good to great. It's wonderful, but we have to have a life, it's called get a life. If your woman's upset, my husband's in his cave all the time, what do? I'm waiting for him to come out. Get a life, be happy, and he'll come out because he wants to connect with a happy woman. But here's a game you can play. It's supercharged. I invented it during COVID, and now you can use it at any time because it's so good for balancing hormones. So for 20 minutes, just 20 minutes, the game is called Genie and the Bottle. Genie is the man. Man wants to be all powerful. That's the genie. You rub the bottle and the genie comes out and says, you've got 3 wishes. Well, you get to have more power. You're going to give her unlimited wishes, happy to fulfill them during that 20-minute period. That's the key to it. It has to be you can't say, you'd say something like, oh, would you clean up the kitchen and empty the sinks? And he'll say, yes, happy to do it right away. Be glad to do it with enthusiasm, because in his mind, he knows it's just 20 minutes. And each time her estrogen is going to go higher and higher. There's a love guarantee. Even if she's kind of grumpy or you're grumpy, fake it for the first 5 minutes. Literally her asking, you doing, her responding and asking again, and you doing will raise her estrogen. And the objective is to get him to do as many little things as possible for you that would make you happy. And to add to the whole thing, she's not allowed to do anything for herself. So maybe she wants to sit and watch TV. Well, she can't even pick up the remote control. She has to ask him, honey, would you get the remote control and find me this movie? And meanwhile, run upstairs and get the lavender oil. I'd like a foot massage. Yes, take off my shoes and socks, please. Basically, you ask, he does. The more little things, the better. As I mentioned before, when it comes to estrogen, little things build it up. But you're not allowed to say things like, I'd like you to keep the kitchen. I'd like you to clean the kitchen and always remember to keep the kitchen clean. That's outside of the 20-minute limit. You can't ask for that. It's request, immediate reaction, request, immediate reaction. And he knows that after he plays this game, he gets to completely be free of being asked to do anything for a while. And she is going to feel good and she can do things that she enjoys doing for a while. And then there's another way of playing this game, which is you can also do it before bed on Saturday night. And it definitely juices up the hormones for what's about to happen. So this is like a dynamic of her developing the skill and the safety to ask for help, because women don't want to ask for help. They only complain if they're not getting it. They don't feel safe asking. They're terrified deep inside of her saying, would you do this? And he says, no, I'm not going to do that. Or asking, and then he doesn't do it. It's just such a rejection. It's multiplied times 10, men, what you feel if you were to approach a woman you're interested in, you wanted to get her number. You know, there's that natural anxiousness about, I don't want to be rejected. Well, multiply that times 10. And deep in the subconscious mind, that's what goes on inside of women to ask for your help. Because they have this whole idea in their mind that if you love me, I wouldn't have to ask. So if I have to ask, it means you don't love me. And then if you were to say no, it would be kabang, you really don't love me. So this is a place where she can bump up her estrogen. And the interesting thing for a man, if you get an estrogen response, it causes your testosterone to go up. He does something else, her estrogen goes higher. So it's a nice little game you can play in your relationship for just 20 minutes to help balance those hormones.
Yeah, thank you. And I have two more questions. I can reduce that timing very short, because since you lived in India for some time, around 9 years time, they are, of course, they think of using this horoscope to see a man is matchable for the girl like that. I don't know whether you know that. Do you have any idea what they are using that, and do you think that really help any way in your understanding?
Well, let me clarify things. I wasn't in India all that time. I've been to India 28 times. I had an Indian guru that I was with at that time. That was the Maharishi of the Transcendental Meditation movement.
Correct.
I was actually his personal assistant, and it was like a father to me, and
Right.
a big life there. But putting that aside, I know the Indian culture quite well. And when it comes to astrology, in Vedic astrology, it's actually can be very, very helpful if you're picking a partner, for your children. I would always think that there's some great benefit from that.
All right.
And also,
That's a good
I
one.
think as well, let me just say, I know you preface this for parents who want to pick the right spouse for their partner. More and more, that's not happening, okay? More and more, your children want to say, hey, I want to feel that there's some chemistry between me and this person. Because ultimately, we live in a different world now. If you picked a partner who had just a good job and she was somewhat pretty and their family was good and they were healthy, that usually would do it because they had roles. But today, women are much more ambitious. They have opportunities to be on their male side. So they're going to want to find someone find them that they feel warmth and affection from, that there will be a chemistry. And something parents can know is, in my book, Mars and Venus on a Date, it's really helpful for couples trying to create a beautiful relationship to know the stages. And I'm not going to talk about them now, but there's 5 stages of knowing this is the right person for you. It gives it time to really develop. But the key thing here is in determining the right person. Astrology can be very, very helpful. I'm very much in favor of that. The other one is teaching your children. If you're a girl and your parents pick a guy out for you and they think he's the right guy and you don't feel any sexual attraction, that's not a problem. For most women, if they meet the right guy, they just feel attraction to his mind. They have interesting conversations. They see his character and they can admire him. Then as he starts to do things, they plan dates where he does things for her, not where she pays for the check, not where she plans it, things he on his own initiative does for her. And what she can also do is say, you know, next weekend, if we're going on that date, he'll say, what do you want to do? It's good to say, well, there's 3 things I want to do. I like this, this, or this. Would you pick? He needs to pick it. He needs to guide. He needs to lead. She shouldn't feel the pressure of picking the right thing, but she should have an answer when he says, what do you want to do? Give him 3 things and then ask him to pick. But when he does things for her and you feel that he has, you're not sexually attracted to him, but he has good qualities and character and a gentlemanliness to him, and you feel safe in that, but not sexual attraction, that still is a good sign. Then he does things for you. And as you start to experience him doing things for you, then sexual chemistry comes about. So this is really important because many times women, if they don't feel sexual chemistry right away, they say, no, I don't want to be with him. I don't want to be with him. I saw that movie star and that movie star really turned me on. That's the man I want. Because see, that's fantasy. See, for women, when they see powerful, successful men, they can feel a fantasy and get turned on sexually. And they think, oh, I want that. That's the wrong guy. You only get turned on right away to the man who doesn't have qualities that will actually love you. And so that's very important not to look for that. And for a guy, you're hooking a guy up with a woman. As soon as he sees her, there should be a feeling of, yeah, I could have sex with her. You know, you want to test out physical chemistry because men start down here, down south. And it doesn't mean she's the right person, but you've got to have that chemistry to start with, or generally you'll never find it. And for a woman, you don't need to feel that chemistry. You've got to feel the chemistry of feeling safe with him, admiring the way he thinks, finding him interesting, looking at his accomplishments and achievements, appreciating that. It starts in the analysis level. Then it goes to the relationship of him doing things for you. Then it becomes physical chemistry. So that's really important tips for their children to know, because a girl might go, no, I like that guy I saw on the YouTube who does the dancing. He does his head and all the girls are dancing around him. But yeah, he's not available to you. So you'll feel attraction. He's not the right guy for you. It's the guy who actually cares about you. You won't feel sexual attraction right away. And men, you'll feel sexual attraction right away. But it's not a guarantee, but it's a beginning start. It gives you the energy to offer yourself to do things. And then if she responds to that, then you start to fall in love with her. It's how she responds to what you do.
That's great. That's great. Thank you. The last question, only one thing. There is you have been talking about the hormone level and everything, but of course I understand, especially in women, it is a seasonal thing. You know, many different hormones, many different times. So accordingly, their mood, many things are changing. But at the same time, in search of marriage partner, is there anything that you can connect with the personality without even considering the hormone level? Do you think this person is more dominant so that it should be a less controlled person is more suitable? Like that, do you have any studies in terms of personality?
Well, yeah, if we take gender out of the equation, there's a whole, I'm very much aware of many different systems. I'm aware of 12 systems of astrology and aware of the different temperaments, and then the gender. Gender is the most important, I just want you to know. But when it comes to temperament, it's good to understand temperament. There's many different ways of describing it. I describe it in one of my books called Children Are From Heaven, where you can see it in children, because nobody had done that before that I knew of. But people have done it in terms of work settings. You're going to have the analyzer. You're going to have the creative types. You're going to have the more supportive types. You're going to have the more emotional types, feeling types. So these, you can categorize different types of people. What you need to have, when one person is dominant, you need to make sure that the other person has had a parent. Like I know a relationship where the female is very dominant and the male is very supportive. He's actually a supportive personality, and she's more of a controller, a dominant. You could put it with colors. He's more of a green, supportive, and she's more of a yellow, controlling. If she's a controlling, it only works to have a green, a supportive. Because if she's a controlling and he's a red, that's the more spontaneous, creative, fun, playful. She's always putting a damper on his fun. I mean, she wants to control and he likes to be out of control. So that can be more challenging. Not to say that you can't do it, okay? But definitely it's better if she's a yellow to have a nice green supportive guy whose mother was very controlling and dad was fine with that, okay? So there's dynamics there of certain temperaments and so forth. But again, I come back again and again, when you get the fundamentals of gender and the better communication skills, regardless of temperaments, you're going to be able to have a successful relationship. But control types are the hardest. I know John Gottman, he's a friend of mine, another famous therapist. He says he can tell right away if a marriage is going to last. I don't believe that's true, but because I think with good communication, in most cases, you can save any marriage, have a great marriage. But he'll look and he'll see if a woman is a yellow, it's really, really hard because men do not want to be controlled. If a man is a yellow and he's more controlling, as long as he doesn't get angry, a lot of women like that, because they feel like they don't have to make decisions. They don't have to take risks. He sort of guides the way. He's sort of like a dance partner, as long as he doesn't use anger. But controlling men do have a tendency, if they don't have self-esteem, to become angry. The green man, okay, he doesn't get angry until he's given and given and given. He'll reach his limit and kind of feel like, wait a second, I have no control in my life. And so then he'll get mad. So you got to be careful when you have a partner who's really agreeing. Be careful, because every person has a limit to how much they feel they can give before they feel like, hey, I'm not getting back on my own. And then you get the blues. The blues are people who have the blues more. They're more moody. They're more sentimental. They get their feelings hurt more. That takes, us green can deal with that if he has good communication skills. Anybody can deal with that. The yellow's going to have the hardest because they're going to always want to change people. Okay. They're the controllers, so somebody's upset and now you got a yellow man. He's like, well, you shouldn't be upset. You shouldn't worry about that. Why are you complaining about that? Instead of saying, okay, let me find my control by letting go of control of changing this person and actually giving them what they need so that they'll feel better. And that's called the love guarantee. That's why for controllers, I always, it helps them with telling them, by listening to somebody, it will allow their feelings to change. And that's with a woman. But if it's a man, if you're a yellow and you're it's just, that's disastrous, because you're always telling him what he should do better. And you don't realize how negative you are. You go, I'm only trying to help people. I'm only trying to help people. Why does everybody think I'm negative? Is it because they're asking for they're not asking for your help. It doesn't do anybody a service to go putting your nose in other people's business and saying, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't do that. And yellows will do that quite a bit. The challenge with reds, if a red doesn't have good relationship skills and his partner's unhappy, he's just going to go somewhere else to be happy. So he has a hard time to make a commitment. He often has a difficult time with monogamy because he likes to sparkle in life. Oh, that's pretty. I want that. And oh, I want that. So it's like these guys usually get divorced because they're not having sex with their wives and they want to go have sex again. And so that's why it behooves, if you're with a red, you need to have good sexual skills. I have a whole class at my website, marsvenus.com, on sexual skills, sex education. Every parent should have their child take that class. Otherwise, it's a disaster because people don't. How many parents give your children sex education? It doesn't happen. And if they do have some sex education, it usually comes from watching porn, which is terrible sex education. It's very unrealistic expectations. They're all actors and it's fake. It's not real. So what does it really take? I have a book called Mars, Venus in the Bedroom that they should read together, or they can take the class together. I have an online class on that. These are like really practical tips for parents, because you're not going to educate them, that's for sure. I asked my dad when I was 27 years old, just for fun. After I stopped being a monk, I got a PhD in sexology. And when you've been celibate for 9 years, then you think, I want to have a lot of sex. People always wonder, how did a monk become an expert on sex? Well, it behooves you that when you miss out on something, you say, I want more of that. But fortunately, I had the wisdom to be able to use it properly and not wasting energy. Wasting energy. If you have sex without love, you're wasting your energy. But my point was, I forget what my point was. I guess it's time to wind up here. But sex education is very, very important.
20 minutes. I took a lot of time from you.
Well, I'm very, very happy to be with you. I'm happy for everybody listening.
And listeners, you can just write down the website, marsvenus.com. There are a lot of good free stuff so you can start with. After that, you can even buy many books and audibles and everything. So you can definitely improve your knowledge in the relationship so that you can improve your family and then your business. So it's an amazing time. We are so happy the whole day has gone without our realization. Thank you so much, John, and I'll definitely connect with you and get back to you very soon. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you all. Thank you for joining. And from my heart to you, may you always grow in love and happiness. May your children be happy as well. Grow in health and happiness. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good night.